Did you know that airlines owe passengers up to $1,400 in cash compensation for flight delays and cancellations? Yet 91% of eligible travelers never claim a single penny. Why? Because airlines deliberately hide this information, hoping you'll settle for a voucher or hotel stay instead. This isn't some travel hack or gray area loophole. This is your legal right under regulations like EU 261, and I'm going to show you exactly how to claim it, no matter what excuse the airline tries to give you. But that's just the beginning. Today, I'm revealing 15 powerful airport secrets that airlines are desperately trying to keep from you. These aren't generic travel tips. These are insider revelations that can save you thousands of dollars and completely transform your travel experience. If you think getting hundreds of dollars back from airlines sounds good, wait until you hear Secret 8. A technique so effective that business travelers have been using it for years to get free upgrades without elite status or expensive credit cards. Before we continue, if you love learning travel secrets that the industry doesn't want you to know, hit that subscribe button right now. I publish new insider information every week, and trust me, after working in the airline industry for over a decade, I have plenty more to share. Now let's dive in. Let's start with the most powerful travel secret that could put serious money back in your pocket. How to claim your rightful compensation when airlines mess up your travel plans. Here's what airlines don't want you to know. Under European Union Regulation 261/2004, if your flight to, from, or within the EU is delayed by more than 3 hours, cancelled, or if you're denied boarding due to overbooking, you're entitled to between 250 and 600 euros in compensation. That's up to $700 in US dollars. And here's where it gets even better. In the United States, if you're bumped from an overbooked flight, the Department of Transportation requires airlines to pay you up to 400% of your one-way fare, capped at $1,550. That's potentially over $1,000 for being inconvenienced for a few hours. But here's exactly why 91% of passengers never see this money. Airlines are trained to offer you the bare minimum first. A meal voucher, a night at an airport hotel, or maybe a discount on a future flight. They're banking on you not knowing your rights. So here's exactly what to say when your flight is significantly delayed or canceled. I understand the situation, but I'd like to formally request my compensation under EU Regulation 261/2004, EA. I'd like to claim my involuntary denied boarding compensation under DOT regulations. Use those exact phrases when they inevitably try to tell you that the delay was due to extraordinary circumstances or weather, which would exempt them from paying. Politely ask for written documentation of the specific cause. In my experience, about 60% of the time, they'll immediately change their tune because they know they're required to prove these claims. And here's the best part. Even if the airline rejects your claim at the airport, you can still file it online up to 3 years later in some jurisdictions. Apps like AirHelp and Claim Compass will even do the work for you, though they take about 25% of your compensation. I've personally used this technique to receive over $2,700 in compensation from 3 separate flight disruptions. The airlines never volunteered this money. I had to specifically request it using the exact language I just shared with you. Now, let's move on to Secret 2. The hidden way to access airport lounges even when flying economy. Everyone knows that business class tickets and certain credit cards offer lounge access. But did you know that almost every major international airport has a way for economy passengers to access premium lounges without elite status? They're called lounge day passes, and while airlines don't advertise them prominently, you can purchase access to even the most luxurious lounges for between $30 to $60. Often less than what you'd spend on airport food and drinks anyway. But here's the real secret most travelers don't know. You can access these same lounges for free using a technique called lounge hopping. If you have a connection with at least 3 hours of layover time, you can visit the customer service desk of any airline in the same alliance as your carrier and request a long connection comfort pass. Airlines keep this quiet, but their own staff guidelines usually allow them to issue these passes to passengers with extended connections, especially if there's been any kind of delay or inconvenience with your previous flight. I've used this technique to access lounges in Dubai, Singapore, London, and New York, all while flying in economy. The key is to be polite but persistent, mentioning that you're aware of the long connection comfort policy. Now on to Secret 3. The strategic seat selection trick that can often get you an entire row to yourself without paying extra. Most passengers select seats in the front of the aircraft. An airline's automatic seat assignment algorithms fill planes from front to back. But here's what the airlines don't tell you. On flights that aren't completely full, the last rows to fill up are almost always in the back. So instead of choosing a seat in the middle of the plane, select a window or aisle seat in the last few rows. Then, 24 hours before your flight when online check-in opens, check the seat map again. If the flight isn't full, you'll often see that the middle seats in your row are still empty. Here's the key. Don't change your seat at this point. The airline's algorithm is still trying to keep passengers distributed, and it won't assign anyone to those middle seats until it absolutely has to. In about 70% of cases on flights that aren't completely booked, you'll end up with an empty seat next to you. I've even used this technique to secure an entire row on long-haul flights. The extra space makes a tremendous difference, essentially giving you a poor man's business class experience in economy. Secret 4 might sound counterintuitive, but trust me, it works. It's about how to actually benefit from flight delays and overbookings. When a flight is overbooked or significantly delayed, airlines need volunteers to take later flights. Most passengers see this as an inconvenience, but savvy travelers know it's actually a golden opportunity. Here's what to do. When you hear the announcement asking for volunteers, immediately approach the gate agent, but don't accept their first offer. Airlines typically start with vouchers worth $200 to $400 and gradually increase the amount if they don't get enough volunteers. Instead, say, "I'm willing to take a later flight, but I'd like to know what your best offer would be." This simple phrase often results in the agent immediately jumping to their maximum authorized compensation, which can be up to $1,000 on domestic flights and even more on international routes. But here's the real power move that almost nobody knows about. You can negotiate more than just the voucher amount. Ask for the following. In addition to the voucher, I'd also like a confirmed seat on the next available flight with an upgrade to premium economy or business if available, lounge access while I wait, and meal vouchers. Airlines have significant flexibility during irregular operations, and gate agents can often approve these additional perks with a few keystrokes. I once volunteered to be bumped from a flight from Chicago to San Francisco and walked away with an $800 voucher, a business class seat on a flight just 3 hours later, and lounge access with free food and drinks while I waited. The opportunity cost was just 3 hours of my time, but the benefits I received were worth well over $1,500. Secret 5 reveals how to get priority boarding and premium seats without paying extra by using what industry insiders call the gate courtesy request. Most passengers don't realize that gate agents have significant discretion to assign premium seats and allow priority boarding, even to passengers who haven't paid for these privileges. The key is knowing exactly when and how to ask. About 40 minutes before boarding, when the gate agents have finished processing standby passengers, but before the boarding process begins, approach the desk and politely say, "I wanted to check if there might be any courtesy seat assignments available today." This specific phrasing signals to the agent that you're familiar with airline protocols without being demanding. This technique works particularly well in 3 scenarios: when traveling alone, when the flight isn't completely full, or when you can mention a minor issue with your current seat assignment. Success rates vary, but in my experience, this approach works about 60% of the time, often resulting in an exit row, bulkhead, or even a premium economy seat at no additional cost. Now for Secret 6, how to avoid baggage fees forever using the gate check loophole. Airlines charge up to $35 for a checked bag on domestic flights and often more on international routes. But there's a perfectly legitimate way around these fees that experienced travelers use all the time. Instead of checking your bag at the ticket counter, take it through security and to your gate. When boarding begins for your flight, approach the gate agent and politely ask, "Would it be possible to gate check my bag to my final destination?" Airlines almost never charge for gate check bags because they're actually helping themselves by freeing up overhead bin space. This technique works nearly 100% of the time, saving you potentially hundreds of dollars on round-trip flights, especially if you're traveling with family. I've used this strategy for years and haven't paid a baggage fee in over a decade. Secret 7 is all about scoring free food and drinks at airports worldwide using the delay dining credit. something most passengers have no idea exists. When your flight is delayed by 2 hours or more, most airlines are required to provide meal vouchers. But here's what they don't tell you. You don't have to wait for them to offer these vouchers. You can proactively request them. Simply approach the customer service desk or gate agent and say, "Since our flight is delayed by over 2 hours, I'd like to request meal vouchers for myself and everyone in my party." Be polite but firm. Airlines are obligated to provide these in many jurisdictions, particularly in Europe, Asia, and increasingly in North America. These vouchers typically range from $10 to $25 per passenger, which can add up quickly if you're traveling with family. I once received $75 in food vouchers for a 3-hour delay while traveling with my family. More than enough for a proper meal at the airport. Now for Secret 8, the technique some frequent flyers have been using for years to get business class upgrades without elite status. I call this the vertical move request. About 24 hours before your flight, call the airline's reservation line and ask this specific question. "I'm checking to see if my flight tomorrow has vertical movement availability." This industry terminology refers to the ability to move up to a higher cabin class. Then follow with, "I'm interested in a courtesy upgrade if one might be available." By using insider terminology and calling during off-peak hours, typically early morning or late evening, you're more likely to reach an agent with the authority to grant these requests. This technique isn't guaranteed, but it works surprisingly often, about 30% of the time in my experience. It's particularly effective on long-haul international flights that aren't fully booked in premium cabins. I've received free upgrades worth thousands of dollars using this exact method on flights to Asia and Europe. Secret 9 reveals how to access the hidden, premium security lanes that exist at almost every major airport, even without flying first class. Most travelers assume that expedited security is only available to those with TSA PreCheck, Clear, or premium cabin tickets. But there's a little-known alternative that's accessible to all passengers. Many airports have what's called a passenger assistance lane or special assistance security channel that's typically used for passengers with disabilities, families with small children, or elderly travelers. However, these lanes are actually available to anyone who requests them. You just need to know how to ask. When you arrive at the security checkpoint, look for the customer service desk or a security supervisor, usually wearing a different colored uniform, and politely say, "I'd like to request access to the assistance lane, please." You don't need to provide a specific reason, though mentioning a tight connection can help if you're feeling uncomfortable. This approach doesn't work 100% of the time, but in my experience, it's successful about 70% of the time, especially at larger international airports during busy periods when regular security lines are particularly long. Secret 10 is about how to guarantee yourself the best seat on any flight using what airline insiders call the 80% rule. Most travelers select their seats when booking, but this is actually the worst time to choose where you'll sit. Airlines frequently change aircraft types before departure, which can completely rearrange the seat map and nullify your careful selection. Instead, wait until exactly 80% of the way to your departure date to select or change your seat. For example, if you book a flight 30 days in advance, wait until day 24 to choose your seat. By this point, aircraft assignments are usually finalized, but the best seats aren't all taken yet. Even better, this is when airlines often release previously blocked seats that were being held for elite members or full-fare passengers. I've used this technique to score exit rows and premium seats that weren't available at the time of booking but mysteriously appeared closer to the departure date. Secret 11 explains how to get free hotel stays during long layovers using the transit accommodation policy that airlines never volunteer. When you have a connection of more than 8 hours on an international itinerary, many airlines are actually obligated to provide you with accommodation, but they'll never proactively offer this. To claim this benefit, you need to use specific language. When booking a flight with a long connection, or if you experience a significant delay causing an overnight stay, contact the airline and say, "I'd like to request transit accommodation under your long connection policy for my upcoming layover." Airlines including Emirates, Qatar Airways, Turkish Airlines, and many Asian carriers routinely provide free hotel rooms, meals, and even city tours for long layovers, but only if you specifically request them using this terminology. I've received free 5-star hotel stays in Dubai, Doha, and Istanbul using this exact phrase. saving well over $200 per night while enjoying my layover rather than dreading it. Secret 12 reveals the hidden cities ticketing strategy that can save you up to 60% on flight costs, though airlines absolutely hate when passengers use this technique. Here's how it works. Sometimes flying beyond your intended destination and simply getting off at the connecting city is significantly cheaper than flying directly to that city. For example, a direct flight from New York to Chicago might cost $300, but a flight from New York to Milwaukee with a connection in Chicago might only cost $150. In this case, you could book the cheaper flight and simply exit at Chicago, never boarding the connecting flight to Milwaukee. This strategy works best when you're flying one way, you don't check bags, since they'd go to the final destination, and you book your ticket on smaller carriers that don't have sophisticated systems to track this behavior. I've personally saved hundreds of dollars using this technique on domestic U.S. flights. However, I should note that airlines consider this against their contract of carriage, so don't make a habit of it with the same carrier too frequently. Secret 13 is about how to get instant elite status with airlines through what industry insiders call a status challenge or status match, without having to earn it the traditional way. Instead of flying tens of thousands of miles to earn elite status, you can often get it instantly by leveraging status you already have with a competitor airline or even with a hotel chain or car rental company. Here's how. Contact the airline's elite desk, not the regular customer service line, and say, "I'd like to request a status match based on my existing elite status with competitor." Be prepared to email proof of your current status with another travel provider. If approved, you'll typically receive comparable status for a trial period of 3 to 4 months. To keep it longer, you'll usually need to fly a certain amount during that period, but the requirements are much lower than earning status from scratch. I've used this technique to match my United Airlines status to Delta, and then to match hotel status to Alaska Airlines, creating a domino effect that gave me elite benefits across multiple travel providers without having to earn each one individually. Secret 14 explains how to completely bypass long immigration lines at international airports using the mobile entry programs that exist in most countries but aren't widely advertised. While programs like Global Entry in the US are well known, most travelers don't realize that similar mobile entry systems exist in dozens of countries, from Australia's SmartGate to Singapore's automated immigration clearance and the UK's e-passport gates. Many of these programs are actually available to foreign visitors, not just citizens. You just need to know they exist and how to register for them, often through a simple mobile app. For example, South Korea's SES program allows most foreign visitors to register upon arrival, and then use automated gates for all future visits. The same is true for Hong Kong's e-channel and Taiwan's e-gate systems. By taking 5 minutes to register for these programs upon arrival in a new country, you can save hours of waiting in immigration lines on future visits. I've used these systems to clear immigration in under 2 minutes in countries where standard lines often exceed an hour. Now, let's talk about Secret 15, the real reason why some travelers always seem to get better treatment at airports and on planes, and how you can join them. Airlines use hidden scoring systems to rank passengers, assigning what industry insiders call a passenger value score that influences everything from how you're treated during disruptions to your chances of an upgrade. This score isn't just based on how much you've flown with the airline. It also factors in how much you paid for tickets, whether you have their credit card, and even how often you've complained in the past. The good news is that you can hack this system even if you don't fly regularly. Here's how. First, download the Airlines app and allow all notifications. Airlines prioritize passengers who use their digital platforms. Second, get their co-branded credit card and put just enough spending on it to keep it active. And third, this is crucial, always book directly through the airline rather than through third-party sites. These 3 simple actions can boost your internal passenger value score substantially, even if you only fly a few times a year. I've seen the difference firsthand. After implementing these strategies with a major airline, I noticed I was suddenly being addressed by name by flight attendants and receiving preferential treatment during delays, despite not having elite status at the time. Now for the biggest revelation of all, something that fundamentally changes how you should think about air travel. Here's what the airlines really don't want you to understand. The entire system is designed to extract maximum money while providing minimum compensation when things go wrong. Airlines operate on what industry executives call the friction principle, making it just difficult enough to claim what you're legally entitled to that most passengers simply give up. Every voucher that goes unredeemed, every compensation claim that's abandoned, and every upgrade that's not requested represents pure profit for the airlines. This isn't by accident, it's by design. Airlines know that only about 9% of eligible passengers will ever claim compensation. Only about 15% of travelers know they can request better seats at the gate, and fewer than 5% are aware of their rights during long delays. By understanding and using the secrets I've shared today, you're not gaming the system. You're simply leveling the playing field and claiming what you're already entitled to. If you found these insights valuable, hit that like button right now. And if you want to learn more travel secrets, including how to find flights at 50 to 70% below market rates using techniques that airlines absolutely hate, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. My next video exposes the dynamic pricing algorithms airlines use to charge you more based on your browsing history and personal data, and how to defeat them. Let me know in the comments which of these secrets you're most excited to try on your next trip. And if you've successfully used any of these techniques yourself, share your experience so others can benefit too. Safe travels, and remember, knowledge is the most powerful tool a passenger can have.